Good evening, friends. We'll be starting in 3 minutes' time. Dr. Manish Paul will be addressing us. Yeah, Anjana, we'll start. Hello, Anjana, shall we start? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You need to unmute yourself. Yeah. Friends, I'm audible to all.
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
Sunil.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sunil,
So
you're
good
audible.
evening. Sorry for a few minutes of a late start. We were just setting up the technical backend. So welcome to this webinar, which is the second in a series of being organized by the St. Mark's Magazine Committee, headed by Anjana, the convener. So today's topic will be about the COVID, the facts, the myths, and what are the points you need to be aware of. This will be gui- this presentation will be guided through by Dr. Manish Paul, one of our own members, and a well-known doctorate in the field of microbiology. So, Dr. Manish, over to you.
Hi. Hi, everybody. How are you all? I think I'll
Fine.
not ask the question because that is going to unmute everybody's phones. I would just say, I hope you're all practicing the social distancing, staying home. Uh, Sunil, can I have the access to the presentation? Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Okay.
take control of the sharing.
Thank you. Can you all see my presentation? Definitely, yes. Just a thumb sign is fine enough for me. And I see Sunil with Jeff Bezos. It's very nice. And I see many of you guys who all I know. John Koloff, Louis, and quite a few of my family is also there. Nice to see. All right. I'll be taking you all through the presentation on COVID 19 facts and myths. This entire slide is hyperlinked, and the whole thing is shared with already with Sunil and as well as with Anjana. They would be sharing the presentation with all the participants. So you can have a copy of it with you for any kind of reference because all the information what I'm presenting is authenticated for they have been taken from the approved uh, information sites such as the World Health Organization, Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, that's my alma mater, then Indian government and CDC. And there is one blue runner there which says rolling updates on coronavirus disease. That is hyperlinked to the current information which you'll be, you can always check on it. It is a live data link. And I put a cautionary note because this is one virus which has been very interesting and very funny virus. We have been learning of it every day, new things. In December, we did not know so much about it, but now we know quite a bit about it. But still, it's a mystery. Viruses are very unique because they are not like bacteria. The bacteria have are living cells. They have their own mechanism. They live on their own. They have their cellular structures. They have got their nuclear material, their cytoplasm, everything like a regular cell. So they can live a life to a certain extent when they can be killed by any kind of dehydration or heat or any of those things can kill it. But viruses, we call them inanimate objects. The reason we call them inanimate is, I mean, they're like cat on the wall. They have a protein structure on the top and a nucleic acid inside, and maybe a bit of frills around them. I will show you a picture of it later on. They're very beautiful to look at, but the way they present it in the media, but actually they just look black and white to us under the microscope. So, a brief about this COVID 19. COVID because the coronavirus disease. 19 because it was discovered or described in the year 2019, it is called as COVID 19. A pneumonia of unknown cause was detected in Wuhan, in China, and was first reported to WHO on 31st of December when we were all preparing to go to church for our, the New Year late night watch night service probably, and that's the time they first reported it. And then it became a public health emergency by within a month's time, and it was declared a pandemic on 11th of March, exactly a month ago. Pandemic, we have got several types of emics. I call it. First is called as endemic. Endemic is there's some diseases are only within a region or a country. They're called endemic. Epidemic can cover a larger geographical area. Pandemic is worldwide. So before they use the word pan, they were very, very cautious, and the WHO took a lot of time before they declared it as a pandemic. So it's a pandemic. And COVID is an infection caused by a newly discovered coronavirus. That's the reason the letter N comes there, novel. N for novel, because they did not know about it previous to this. SARS, because severe acute respiratory syndrome is the disease, is the syndrome it causes, and CoV for coronavirus, and 2 for its genotype. And I have hyperlinked that as well. But know about this disease, it's very interesting. It is not such a dangerous disease. For most of us, it's very mild to moderate respiratory illness, and we recover without requiring special treatment. Most of the people. Otherwise, by now, the whole world should have been flat. But it is not so because it doesn't cause such a serious disease for everybody, but except older people and those with underlying medical problems like cardiovascular diseases, the diabetes, or chronic respiratory disease, or cancer. I mean, these are the people who are more likely to develop serious illnesses. So the best way to prevent and or slow down is being well informed, which is what the brilliant job our St. Mark's Maxim committee is doing, is to disseminate the right information to the people so that you are all well informed and rightly informed, and not by the myths which go around in the university of WhatsApp and Messenger or the Google, right? Then well, of course, you need to protect yourself and others by practicing hand hygiene and not touching the most important part of your body, that's your face. We call them the T because you have the eyebrows and going down along the nose till the mouth. The T is what you need to not touch because those are the orifices or the areas through which the virus can enter inside. And this virus spreads primarily through droplets of saliva or discharge from the nose when an infected person coughs or sneezes. So it's important that you practice respiratory etiquettes. And at this time, there are no specific vaccines or treatments for COVID, though there are clinical trials going on, and I will talk about it very briefly later on. Oh, this is the beauty. It looks black and white, but of course, you put a makeup. CDC did the makeup and made it look very beautiful. And somebody went to the extent of adding some animation. It looks like wow, but it's not so wow actually. It's just black and white there for us. COVID symptoms and prevention. These symptoms appear usually between 2 to 14 days, and it may or it may not. So, since the time you have exposed yourself to the virus, we have come, especially the CDC has come up with this definition based on the experience on the MERS, which is the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome, which we had in the early 2000s, caused by the same coronavirus, fever, cough, and shortness of breath. But if you develop emergency warning signs, such as trouble breathing, persistent pain or pressure in the chest, and any kind of confusions you encounter, or bluish lips, or your face starts turning to blue, then you need to rush to the medical emergency immediately. And according to the government of India, uh, this is how the virus spreads it by air. A lot of people have been asking this question about the air. How does it spread by air? I mean, how far does it go? It's a heavy virus. People are talking about it's very heavy. We call it walks. Yes, of course, it walks in a closed environment. It's about a meter is what it can fly. But if you are going behind a person who is jogging or walking, briskly or cycling and it sneezes, and if there is wind, then it can fly up to 9 meters also. So up to 20 meters it can go,
Section
depending
142,
upon the speed of the wind. So that's the reason social distancing is very critical.
remember ramp.
And of course, personal contact, contaminated objects, and mass gatherings are prevented. And of course, St. Mark's and all the churches and most of the gatherings have been stopped now, and we are all worshipping electronically. Yeah, that's very interesting mode of worship. I think we have discovered due to COVID. Somebody was making a joke. VC is no more. It is called before Corona time now. The things are going to change significantly in the way we are going to work. We are going to worship. We are going to meet people. Everything's going to change. But I think as human beings, we are social beings. We are going to come back together. I don't believe that before Corona time so much. And prevention, of course, washing your hands often, wearing a mask. And I'm going to talk to you about the mask and avoiding contact with sick people and always covering your cough and sneeze. And this is as per the MyGov, the Government of India. I've given the telephone numbers there with which, I mean, at which you can always get in touch in case if you experience any of the symptoms. This is as of today, the global health picture, how it looks. You see, the number of cases today have been 85,054 across the world. That's a significant jump. We have 1.5 million people already infected by this virus, and we have got close to a million deaths. We are coming closer to a million deaths. Sorry, 1 lakh deaths all over the world, which is very scary. And 1.5 million, 15 lakhs. So that's a lot of people who are getting infected. And if you look at the deaths, today we have 7,277 deaths reported across the world. These things all scare us. There's something more to scare us. In India, today it shows 7,876 cases, which is 276 cases increased in one day. And yesterday was very highest. We had almost 871 cases reported yesterday, the 10th of April. These are all very scary numbers. But what I would recommend to all of you is don't be afraid. As long as you practice the three elements of social distancing, hand hygiene, and covering your face, you are good to go. And don't get in touch with people who got diseases. And of course, if you have to, then I'll tell you what to do about it. But these pictures always scare us, but let us not get too scared and worried about the whole thing. Now, testing, I've given you the details of some of the laboratories in that presentation, which I'll be sharing with you. So in Bangalore, we have got the Bangalore Medical College Research Institute and NIV Field Unit. These are the two centers which do the testing. Call 104 and you will get access to the particular location. And now, very recently in the past week, we have got approvals for some of the kits so that mass screening can be done. This is why we need very important activity the whole government is taking up. Flattening the curve. What is flattening the curve? Flattening the curve, if we are not going to maintain social distancing, it's going to be like the pink graph. So in order to slow the acceleration of number of cases and then reduce the number of cases peaking in the hospitals, we have to flatten the curve. To flatten the curve, we distance ourselves so that our exposure is not going to be so much to the infected people. And that's what is called as flattening the curve. And all over the world, people are working towards flattening the curve, except one nation, that is Sweden, where they are not following a lockdown, but they are following social distancing alone. Through that, they want to, they are, and they have proven quite well actually. If you see the number of cases there they have, and the age group, it's not really alarming that they are doing a really brilliant job in Sweden, and that could be a model to compare later on in the future. Why and how we could adapt certain or make some changes in the way we are going to handle such pandemics in the future. So how do we do the flattening the curve? Social distancing, and I will not talk too much about it. And I had sent a message to the pastor almost more than a month ago about social distancing. Always tell namaste to people. That's best way, and avoid gatherings, cover the face, and hand wash. And social distancing we have to do. If we don't, this page is going to tell you the kind of burden the government or the system is going to have, and also anyone who doesn't follow social distancing is going to have. Once a case is identified in a community, what happens? one, the government system has to be mobilized to go and identify all those contacts and then put them under 14 days of monitoring. In case there are no symptoms, then the monitoring stops. If any symptoms appear, then again identify their contact, the context of the contacts, okay, and again quarantine, and the cycle begins. In case the person becomes sick, then they will have to go through the tests. It's not one test. They have to get consecutively two negative tests before we can stop monitoring that. So look at the amount of burden we are going to put on the system when we want to flatten the curve if we do not maintain social distancing. So it is very, very important and scientific to maintain this social distancing. In case of a hospital, if you say, oh, my relative, my loved one is sick, so I'm going to take him to the hospital, and again, the burden is going to be equally similar. Now, what can we do? Protecting others from getting sick. So you have to avoid close contact, avoid spitting in public, which is one of the cultural things in India. So we should not do that anymore. And in case if you have fever, cough, or difficulty in breathing, seek medical care as early as possible. And when you're coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth or nose by flexing, or else use flexing your elbow and blowing into the elbow, flexed elbow, and then throw the tissues in a covered dustbin or into a paper which can be wrapped and then discarded as a biomedical waste in a black pack for the BBMP. And clean hands with soap and water is what I would recommend more than the alcohol based. Because when you're washing hands, if they're visibly dirty, use soap water because it creates a lather and it makes the hand to clean much better. Because the contact time for the virus to die is at least 10 to 15 seconds on hand. So the alcohol, the more it evaporates faster, the chances of some remnants is higher. So just to take care of that one. So you have to wash your hands every time you cough or sneeze, when you're caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling your own pets at home. But this red line I put there. Please make sure you don't keep the tap with running water till for the 20 seconds till you're rubbing your hands. No, don't sing birthday, happy birthday twice by let the water run. Please save water, conserve water, and this is a good time when the earth is also getting, I think, recharged the underground waters. Let's facilitate that activity as well. Now, mask. Many people are wearing masks, but they're not always wearing it rightly. So please make sure when you're wearing a mask, you have to be having any of the symptoms. Only then use a surgical mask. Otherwise, you have to use a cloth mask, which can be made at home by yourself. And in the presentation, I have shared the entire slides how you can make your own mask and use it and reuse it. So before wearing a mask, please wash your hands with soap and water, and once you wear it on your face, you have to hold it at your neck, nose bridge, and then pull the mask down. So that's the way you cover your mouth. And on wearing the mask, do not touch anywhere on the mask, because if the air or anybody who sneezed or coughed, if the viruses are thrown at you, if they are sticking on outside of the mask, and that is going to come onto your hands, and once you take off the mask, you may use it and touch yourself. So please replace the mask as soon as you feel it's been used enough, or maybe maximum is about 4 hours you can use it. And when you're removing the mask, please put your fingers behind the ears and then open it from there, and straight away put it into the dustbin or on a paper wrap and then throw it, and wash your hands with soap and alcohol again. If you are caring for the sick, if somebody is sick at home, please isolate yourself and make sure that you keep yourself busy and happy, and try to stay in a separate room. And if you have to cough, flex elbow. That's the best. And anybody who is at home who's caring, you need to wash your hands frequently and try to avoid unnecessary contact with the person who is ill. And then if you have to cough, sneeze, also do the same thing. And one of the things you will have to do is monitoring the temperature of everybody at home. If anyone gets ill again there, that has to be reported to the authorities for further action. And if seniors or any other patients who are at home, ensure that they are happy, they drink lots of fluids and eat nutritious food. And you have to wear a mask when you're coming in close contact with them. Try to keep separate utensils for them. and all the doorknobs, everything has to be sanitized frequently. So, in a nutshell, to say you have to be very kind to the person, because there is a lot of stigmatization which is happening in the society for people with COVID positive, which is not the right thing, because it is not like a disease which is for the lifetime. It gets healed like any other infection, and most of the people recover. As we saw in the graph, the recovery rate is also significantly increasing now. That's how we are flattening the curve. So we don't have to stigmatize and reject people who have that infection. Tell them all stories about who all are recovered and keep them in high spirits. Immunity works better when the person is in a good spirit. Coming to the myths, well, this is the cartoon which I put across. You can see from all over the world, from all directions, you get hit by a lot of messages which are not true. Always check with WHO or CDC. Now, recently I saw in the World Health Organization website that it says 5G. Somebody started spreading a news that 5G network is going to cause, COVID-19. That's such a weird and bizarre thing to spread, because there is no person-to-person contact here. It all happens over the air, but in the microwave format. And don't believe that it goes away at 56 degrees centigrade, it's going to die. It's all not true. This virus can, these are, as I told you, right, they are not living cells by themselves. They remain on a surface for up to 9 days without getting killed. And when they find the right host or the right cell where they can multiply, they go in and they start living again. So they don't die that easily. They're a little hardy, except when you directly expose them to alcohol or any of those disinfectants like sodium hypochlorite. And this is again the same point. You are not infected for your life. You will recover from it, and everybody is going to fine for after the treatment. Only those patients who got the underlying conditions, or having a certain age with those conditions, they have more likely to be getting into critical stage. But still, with the available medical facilities, we can still save those patients. That's the reason maintain social distancing. uh, yeah, somebody said that you can actually do this, really breathing 10 seconds, and if you can't, if you cough within that, you have something. If you don't cough, you are good to go. That's not true. I'm sure many of the youngsters can still do that, and many people who got already some COPD like chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, they can't do that even either without COVID as well. So that is not a test to be taken as a indicator to be having or not having COVID. Then drinking, alcohol or the acid in the water, stomach is going to kill the viruses. Drinking every 15 minutes water is going to cure you. This is all myth. Frequent alcohol or excessive alcohol consumption is not a good thing, and this should not be a reason why we take up or extend our drinking habits. So it's a healthy sign not to get into the alcohol, because alcohol has got other effects. Unless somebody is alcohol dependent, one need not get into this totally different, vertical of their life. And then, yes, they say it's only the old people who get it, and I'm young and healthy, I can be fine. Not so true, because everyone can get this. There is no age bar for it. But of course, if you look at Indian case, there are not many senior citizens who are infected. Of course, among the infected, about 60% are the senior citizens who have died. But among the total population who have been infected, there are only about, I think, 17% are senior citizens who are infected. Rest are in other groups. So let's not think that only 60 and above are going to be affected and we are all good to go. No, that's not true. And medicines, of course, there are no medicines at this point in time. And of course, WHO is working on it. I will show you in a couple of slides what they're doing about it. There is no vaccines also for this one. And people are talking about a lot of vitamins, essential oils. Don't get into this alternative methods. Use Indian medicine. They are trying out Indian medicine, system of medicine. That is good. But don't start practicing quackeries without having proper, validated, scientifically evidenced data. People say, I can wear gloves and I'm good to go. No. Washing hands is much better than, wearing gloves. So coming towards I'll be closing my presentation in another 5 minutes. I put together here about 15 points. Cold weather and snow cannot kill the virus. Hot and humid climates can still transmit the virus. Mosquitoes cannot take it because it's a mucus bone. It is not blood-borne disease, and there is no evidence that animals such as cats or dogs can transmit the disease. And some people said, I can be hot tub for a long time, so all the viruses will go away. But whatever is gone in is enjoying inside at 37 degrees. Hand dryers, hair dryers, or ultraviolet exposure to the skin, these are not good. They're not going to save from the virus. And thermal scanners, of course, they unless the disease has come to the fever stage, you cannot really show there is a disease. So it's only as a preventive, but that really cannot confirm whether the person has COVID or not. And spraying alcohol all over the body or chlorine water all over the body will not kill one that is inside you. And vaccines against pneumonia is not going to protect you against this particular virus because they are very different. These viruses, you saw the spikes. It's called corona because that's a king. It's got a crown. It's called in Latin. It's called corona. It's crown. So all those spikes have got different proteins on them. So it is very difficult to use one vaccine against the other. So they are developing and working out several vaccines. We need to wait and watch. There is no evidence that regular rinsing of the nose is going to protect you, nor garlic. Of course, these all have got immune potentiating effects, but doesn't mean that they are going to protect you from the disease per se if you are exposed to high numbers. And no antibiotics work. Some people, some leaders have made a statement that yes, antibiotics, azithromycin is going to work, which is not true because they work only in secondary bacterial infections and not as the primary agents, as antivirals. And among the treatments, now WHO is working on something on a solidarity trial in which they are looking, which is the solidarity trial is it's a global trial across the world. Everybody does on similar molecules and test and see if the data is valid, then that becomes an approved treatment. Closing few myths. Some more. Indian immune system is better than the West. We always think the grass is greener on our side than other side. It's not true. Our immune system is as good as it should be than anybody else. Clapping hands, chanting, lighting candles, none of those things are going to kill the virus. Uh, some say, this is all happening because of divine force, and we were all going to be, this nature is recuperating. That's the reason diseases come. Nothing of that sort. They are both different things altogether. Since COVID-19 testing is unavailable, people are thinking of donating blood and assuming they are going to test for COVID. It's not true because it's not a blood-borne disease. So nobody's going to test the blood for COVID-19 there. Somebody said Easter is coming. A lot of people have left mutton, chicken. Don't stop eating it. You can buy it and eat. It's not going to pass through mutton or chicken tomorrow morning, right? The virus is manufactured in the lab. No, it's not a proven hypothesis. Chinese food you can still eat, made in India. Of course, going in China and eating, I do not know about it, but at least in India you can have Chinese food, no problem. You don't get Chinese by made in China products, nor by ordering food from outside. So, in conclusion, I put a slide from the government of India so that you know these are the do's and don'ts, so that you remain safe. And with this, I end my presentation, and I'll take any questions if people have. I can't hear anybody. So,
Anjana?
Yeah, Dr. Paul, can you hear me?
yeah, I
Yeah,
can
this
hear
is
you.
Suresh William. Can you highlight some information with regard to the food? Various kind of vegetables, fruits, and other things that we bring in from the grocery stores. What is the means of this particular virus getting into homes through these kind of purchases that we make on a which we need every for sustaining ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, they can come through that because as long as somebody hasn't applied it, if the vendor or the supplier who brings it to your home has got that virus in him and he has smeared it with the his nasal secretions, then of course you are going to touch it. So it's always good practice. I mean, these are all not been proven by in the laboratory yet, but these are the common sense precautions we have to take. Wash them, anything you bring from outside first. straight away go and put it in the sink, wash the packed stuff as well. Make sure they're all clean before you touch them with a clean hand. And once again, and when you're washing, it's not just in plain water. Please put some lather on that so that it's much cleaner, and the virus, if it is there, it is washed away.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I can't hear Jerusha. You're speaking. You're muted. Jerusha, you're muted.
Dr. Paul. Continuing with the previous question, sometimes people are also keeping the newspaper out in the sunlight. Like, what is your take?
I won't believe newspaper is required to be unless somebody is sabotaging and trying to cause you to get the disease. It's only then I would suspect it to come so far. But I won't put, because putting in sunlight is not going to kill the virus that easily either. So there's no point. You can just handle the newspaper safely. Any other questions? If you have, I can take it for any myths you have heard people talking about.
There are two questions that had come in.
Yeah.
Two interesting questions. If a person sneezes and the droplets fallen on the ear, inside the ear, can one contract COVID-19? And the second one is, there's a viral video of a bank officer ironing notes with a clothes iron. Will that be effective in killing the virus?
No, I don't think so. That's going to take away the virus. It's just a placebo. He feels it is safe. It's not going to kill the virus just by pressing it that way. I'll tell you. What happens is when if there is a mucus secretion, if the virus is exposed as is directly, then any heat certain 56 degrees and above can kill the virus. If it is within a secretion, there is secretion which is protecting it over that. It has to pass through that layer and then only come into that to expose the virus. So I mean, if he's doing it, these are all now nobody's tested these things. If it makes him feel good, go ahead and do that, because that's the reason now everybody's practicing using digital payments, wireless card payments, so that you don't allow anybody to touch your currency either till this. And one more thing I'll tell you, this COVID is not going to run away just in after this lockdown. It's going to still remain. This disease is going to be there. It is going to be there for some more time. As per the scientific discussions, what we have, it has to pass through at least 50 to 60% of the human race. And then it builds something known as the herd immunity. And that's how we get everybody immunized, because the virus has no more challenging patients or individuals in whom it can go and infect. That's how we overcome it. So we cannot go to such a broad extent to start getting paranoid about ironing newspapers or currency notes and everything. Avoid using currency notes until then.
Hello.
Anjana, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. There was a note today in the newspaper that now it is airborne, and it can spread to a height of 13 feet. So I just wanted to ask Dr. Manish if is that an authentic statement?
See, as I mentioned in the presentation, it's the wind speed which matters. When a person in front of you sneezes, okay, if there is enough gust of wind, it can fly to a longer distance. So what it says is up to 20 meters, if somebody is cycling and sneezes, the virus can fly through, and then it settles down onto the ground. Because it's quite a heavy virus, of course. So it is going to settle onto the ground. It won't start rising from the ground and going high into the sky. That I don't agree to that.
Okay.
There's one more question I see about the airborne. Okay. And Jerush has asked, what about applying oil after bath? Will it reduce lifespan of the virus? I mean, you can apply oil, but it doesn't kill the virus. It doesn't kill the virus. Oils don't kill the virus. It can only prevent probably a reattachment if somebody is sneezing around you. Because in the clinics, if you see, you are wearing a PPE, personal protective equipment, and then the entire thing is thrown off. Nobody puts oil and then wears a PPE because it is not a proven science, but it can only help you keeping your skin healthy.
Manish, there was some rumor sometime back, that tiger has got coronavirus. That was going around.
Hmm.
So is it a fact or it was in the news also?
Uh-huh. I haven't checked that one, but even if it
Hmm.
is there among the tiger, it doesn't matter because there is it's at this point in time it's an hypothesis that it has jumped from an animal to the human.
Okay.
Because that is what is they have presumed it to be, but not proven yet. At this point, there is no evidence to say, but we say yes, of course, because a lot of viruses jump from animal to humans after
Yeah.
certain age. It's a natural process, evolutionary process. They do jump to humans and they pass through that race and then they move on. So, but getting into tigers should not be a matter of something to be worried or concerned about. Maybe.
No, the reason why, because of one of my professional group, we were having a debate on that, and some people from Delhi were talking that if this is so the case, then if somebody on the road who's having a problem, someone who's infected, and he sneezes or coughs or something, and that saliva falls and goes onto a dog, for example, on this road or the street dog, and that could be more dangerous for all of us. That's what was the discussion happening. So,
Good
is it
discussion.
true or not? Or is it a myth? I don't know.
Well, that's a good point actually. If it gets into a dog, what do we do? It can spread among the dogs. It is not that one person sneezes and it gets into a dog. The virus has to have a certain amount of pressure created on it before it undergoes a mutation. These are not like one exposure that get mutated. This virus has taken years to jump from animal to human. It's not just one exposure. And also why this virus is become a big challenge for us is what we call as an infective dose, right? Infective dose is like okay, somebody likes to have a cup of coffee, maybe 1 teaspoon of sugar is sufficient or maybe quarter spoon. This virus, just a pinch of sugar is enough to get into you, wherein the other viruses like maybe H1N1 or the MERS, the concentration of the virus which was required to enter into your body to cause the disease is very high. Since the number is very low, the risk of spreading is very rampant. So the social distancing is trying to be used for flattening the curve, as I mentioned in the presentation. Flattening the curve is very, very, very critical at this point in time, especially for a country like India. So worrying about the dog, of course, I'll have to check that information. The tiger thing, I never went because for me, there are a lot of things happening around it. It really doesn't make sense scientifically. As I said, we just ignored it. But I'll check it and get back to you on that one. What it means exactly.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Manish, according to you, the curve, when will it peak? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It is going to come back.
Huh.
You see, I'll tell you why this whole lockdown, everything is happening is the amount or the level of medical facilities what we have to save the patients is not sufficient if everybody falls sick. So we need to expand, protract the process.
Hmm.
So that's the way we're slowing down the spread of the virus. This virus is going to get most of the people, and many of them will be asymptomatic, and we will all recover from it. Only those patients who are vulnerable population, when they get it, we don't have facilities to save them. If today 10,000 patients just come into Bangalore who got COVID, we'll have to lose out on many patients because we don't have facilities to cater to them. So when we slow down the disease process, as many people come, we can still cater to them and save almost all of them. So that's the
Hmm.
way how we are reducing the death rate.
Okay, that's good.
Manish, just a question now on this
Yes,
entire COVID.
John.
Yeah, this entire COVID scenario. What is the statistics about children getting it, and what do you think are going to be the
Ratio.
time frame that children will actually be able to meet or mix with their friends. It seems like right now an impossibility.
See, I'll tell you, children or any age group, the risk is equally same. The vulnerable population are at higher risk. Otherwise, everyone is at the same risk. Be it you, me, our kids, little children. Everybody has a similar kind of risk of getting an infection. But the brighter part of the story is most of us would recover from it without having to have the whole disease manifested. I'll tell you, the first part of the patients, the group of people who are infected are called as asymptomatic. They don't even know they got the virus and the virus has passed through them. They didn't even feel they got tired for a day or two, and they feel better the next day. The second set of patients are the ones who have mild symptoms, which could be like a common cold. You don't even realize it is due to SARS-CoV-2. You think it is some mild cold, yeah, I'm having an allergic cold or something, and you recover. When they enter the third phase, the symptoms are very, very, very critical, wherein you have got body pains and you got cough, dry cough, and high temperature running into you, and you slowly start feeling a little, uneasy in your breathing pattern, and that's the time you need to see the medical doctor. And they are going to test for you, and they are going to only isolate you in your home. They're not going to put you into the hospital at that point in time. They'll put you on supportive therapy at home, and you can recover from that stage also and become normal. If you progress towards the right side of the curve, wherein the symptoms are going to become aggressive in you, that's when you have to get enrolled into a hospital. They are not going to let you go home. So that's when the criticality, that is called severe stage. From moderate, you move into severe stage. From severe, a person can get into the critical stage, or can still come back through ventilators and all supportive therapy and treatments. What you're trying out, we can save the patient and send him back home, him or her.
There is a question from, I think her name is Arushya. She
Mhm.
wants to know if the testing is enough.
Is the amount of testing we are doing is enough?
Enough, yeah.
Well, the number of tests really doesn't matter. That is only for statistical purpose, because of course we need to know how many people are positive, but how many people are willing to just go and get them tested. We cannot test everybody. Assume now I'm going to test this. I live in an apartment complex. We conduct a camp and we test everybody here, and we are all negative. Tomorrow I get exposed to the virus and I come back, and after 3 days I'm positive, but my testing was recorded as negative, but I'm actually positive in a couple of days, and I don't go and test because I was asymptomatic or had mild symptoms and I recovered from the disease. So this number game really doesn't matter. All we look at is how many were positive, and among the positive, how many went to critical and then passed on or recovered. Only these three parameters we look at for statistics.
Hmm.
Because of course community testing is it really doesn't add value to at the end of the day, because we may get exposed tomorrow or day after when you go to supermarket to buy your groceries, and you may catch it from there, and then you're no more being tested, right? So
Hmm.
the testing is very tricky. It doesn't give real answers to us. That's what I mean.
Okay. Okay. There's another question from Jennifer. Can
Okay.
a complementary microstrand of the COVID be synthesized and used to kill the virus?
It sounds very simple, but it is not so, because it's an RNA virus, of course. This is too technical question. Probably I don't want to bore the whole group. Jennifer,
Yeah.
you can get in touch with me. I can explain the mechanism later on. Probably it's
Hmm.
too technical. I think it'll bore everyone otherwise.
Okay.
Jennifer,
Uh,
can please ask her to get in touch with me. I'll
sure, sure.
explain
I
to her the
will tell
mechanism.
her. Yeah. Then another question from Jerusha. The incidence in children, it's very low, right? Currently,
Yeah.
the incidence in children, it's very
Yes.
low currently. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you one moment. I have a statistics here. You know, among gender distribution, if you see, 76% are male, 24% female, and
Hmm.
age is 47% are below 40 years of age, and 34% are between 40 and 60, and only 19% are above 60. So, which means
Hmm.
below 40, 47%, children included as well in that one. But
Yes,
among the
yes.
death rate, if you see, 63% deaths are reported among the elderly, 60 and above. Among the 19%, 63% are the senior citizens, and
Hmm.
remaining are 30% are between 40 and 60 years, and 7% of deaths are below 40 years of age. That's Indian statistics.
Okay.
Because we say Indian immunity is different and blah blah. We are talking about several things. Maybe BCG is working, or maybe our exposure to malaria is giving a shared immunity. These are all maybes, may be true unless proven, and I want to believe that one because we want to save patients. Actually, end of the day, we are trying our best. There are a lot of research is going on across, and there is a trial right now going on in Kerala as well, trying to test for hydroxychloroquine, whether it is going to help us in saving patients. Because by the mechanism of action itself, I am not so much for chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine, nor azithromycin, because it's very toxic. It has a lot of cardiac effect. But if when I have to trade between saving the patient versus having some cardiac impact, maybe we will use it to save the patient first and then manage his cardiac symptoms.
Okay. There's another question from George Phillips. He says that if we have mild symptoms and take a lot of fluids, will it help?
Sorry?
If we have mild symptoms and take a lot of fluids, will it help?
I mean, what do you do when you have cold? Normally, you take a lot of fluids and eat nutritious food and you keep yourself hydrated. The same thing you do for this, and it will definitely help you. It'll definitely help you. In one of the slides, I mentioned that what you can do when you have mild symptoms. So I hope you are all sharing with the presentation with everybody, right?
Yes, we are.
So they can use it as a as a reference whenever they want to get clarified.
We are just asking people. We are just asking people to send in the email addresses to stmarks.edit@gmail.com so that we can email it out to them after the presentation.
Any further questions, anyone? I think Jennifer, you seem to have a lot of questions, Jennifer. So you can get in touch. I'm not sure if you can see my number, or you can send a mail to just to the mail, the ID that Sunil just mentioned, and we will send it across to Dr. Manish. Any questions, anyone?
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah.
So good evening, sir. Sir, actually, there's a vaccine being developed and it's in clinical trial, and the vaccine is developed by Moderna. It's an mRNA vaccine, mRNA 1273. So how will that actually help us prevent this virus affecting us?
Yeah, all vaccines, two ways you use a vaccine. One is antigenic or the antibody vaccine, right? So antibody vaccines they're not really vaccines. Vaccines per se, they are going to be used as a therapeutic option. Normally, in an immune responses, what we do is we challenge the body with any of the viral particle that can trigger an immune response. Okay, so that we have enough antibodies prepared in us. So when the virus comes into us, so we have antibodies already ready to kill them. Right now, these people are working on Moderna. Not only Moderna, I can share with you the whole bunch of companies are working on it. It's not one company. Several types of vaccines have been worked out. Among the treatment options, I did mention, even interferon 1 alpha beta is also being used there, right? So these are all various options to be used, but they're all going to be under trial right now, and it'll take a while before they come into the market. And I think by the time these vaccines come to the forefront, COVID would have been, almost much low emphasized. Yeah, it takes about 8 months. Whether what's the whole point, I don't know. Better to promote like Sweden is doing. There has to be a slowed down process of spreading the disease. It will spread. We don't have to do anything. The virus is going to spread by itself and strengthen the whole community by developing natural antibodies.
Sir, right now, this is a zoonotic infection. So this is actually caused by beta coronavirus, from what I've read.
Raghu, for the benefit of the group, I think the technical questions, please, let's discuss separately.
Yes.
Anjana will share my number with you. You can call me anytime. I can discuss. That's quite complex mechanisms you're asking. I can explain to you later.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions before we close today's session?
One last question, Manish.
Yeah.
How complementary medicine?
Huh? Sorry?
Kishore is asking.
Louis
Role of any complementary medicine as it is being claimed?
Well, complementary means what we are doing, the Ayush and things like that? Are you referring? Okay, I like to believe in that because unless there is data to show, I read somebody recently talking about Dr. Girish or somebody, an Ayurvedic doctor, mentioning that he submitted data yesterday to CDCSO, so it will be made available to the general public. I like to take a look at the data, and if it is promising, yes, why not? I call it not complementary, I call it Indian medicine because it's better to call it that way because this medicine, the Western medicine came in later than our Indian medicine. So I call it Indian medicine and it's good. I like to believe in that. But it's all about data. End of the day, whether it is really having the evidence, data evidence to show that it's going to save the person or not is most important.
Okay, so do we have any further questions?
Yeah, one last question from my side. Manish, this talking about flattening the curve. Now, yes, we are running short of a lot of test kits and all that. That's what the government is talking about every day. But honestly, do you think that we are capable of increasing the capacity
Of
in all the
testing?
hospitals? Yes.
Oh, yes. We are going to increase. Now we have got the ICMR has approved a couple of kits already now, and they're fast tracking the detection system because I'll tell you this virus also shows the curve is very different when the antibodies appear and when the virus appears. So viral detection is the initial stage, and then there is something known as IgM antibodies for the common knowledge, which is like a bigger molecule. It's got five hands to it. It looks like this. So IgM antibodies are the immediately which come and do the war with the viruses, and then comes the IgGs. But the viral count can still be detected by PCR. So now we are trying to do the fast-based method, which is the quickest method. Abbott came out with a test kit called as within 5 minutes they are going to detect, but it is so sensitive. A lot of false positives started coming up and having a stigma now making people positive until proven negative. They have been already quarantined and they are going through a lot of challenges, so they are again reworking on it. And of course uh, we are going to have a lot of capacity building. It is happening in India, and we are going to have more testing centers across the country, and in Bangalore especially we'll have quite a few of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you,
My
Manish.
email address is there on the this thing, my presentation. You can always get in touch with me if you have any questions.
Yeah. Probably we will share it right now. Sunil, if you could just type it out as we are talking. Dr. Manish's email ID as well.
No, I think send marks.edit is, I mean, you can send my email address as well.
Yeah. So either one, so that we can get in touch. So once again, thank you, Dr. Manish, for that very, very, very informative session on the COVID myths and facts. And yeah, it's really been such a pleasure.
I didn't have a chance to get into the faith part because the myths and facts itself was
took
quite.
over. Yeah, maybe we'll do a part 2 sometime soon. Anyway, we're all in the same process again. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Okay.
thank you. And on behalf of, I think that we are about 40 participants today. So thank you one and all for logging in and going through our webinar. And hopefully we will come again next Saturday with another interesting topic. And Dr. Manish has also written for our e-magazine. The Remarkable is for this, because of our present predicament, we are going through an e-magazine which will be soft launched for Easter tomorrow. So you could read a little more on that. And most probably we will try to have the links for this today's session and last week's session also on our website, or we will send you a link where this can be forwarded to as many people as possible. Do write in and let us keep the interaction open. And you could also send us any kind of uh, future topics that you would like to want us to cover, which can be very informative for everyone. So I hope it has been a very informative session, and let us stay safe and observe all the tips that Dr. Manish took us through. So thank you once again, one and all, and wish you all a very happy Easter to each of you and your families. God bless you. Stay safe, and until we meet again next Saturday. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks, Manish.
Thank you. Welcome. Bye.
Okay, man. Bye.